Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and this video I'd like to discuss the news of more retailers promising to never sell certain US food products, including chlorinated chicken, and wonder if the issue may become big enough that the trade deal would actually flounder on people power. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I have to say, for some reason, I know the reason, I've been a little bit demob happy today. Because, I say today, at the point at which I'm recording this, it'll be yesterday from the point at which you're watching this. And today was the last day of the academic year for the college where I do a little bit of part-time work to keep my hand in. And I just got that end of year bonhomie, and I don't know why, because it doesn't change that much for me. I was doing a little bit of part-time remote teaching, obviously the last few months. I'm still going to be doing the same old thing each day. But it put me in a good mood, and I thought, let's start off with something that is putting a bit of a smile on my face. It may be short-lived, it may be not, before we get on to the more hard-hitting and annoying aspects of politics. So, chlorinated chicken. One especially controversial aspect of the proposed US trade deal, of course, is that it means the UK has to lower food standards. Something Boris Johnson promised not to do, and yet he's putting through a bill through Parliament designed to do just that. The word promise seems to mean different things to him. And chlorinated chicken has become something of a focus for this concept, though there are other foods of concern as well. And just to do my usual dispelling of the smoke screen that people try and put over this, it's not the chlorination that is harmful, of course. It's the piss poor hygiene standards on the production process that kills. The chlorination is what they use to try and mask those poor hygiene standards. It doesn't really work very well. Now, when all of this was first announced, those attempts to distract people with the focus on the chlorination as opposed to the hygiene could well have worked. Doesn't seem to have. Tentatively say it doesn't seem to have at this point in time anyway. So next people said, well, you know, they won't buy it themselves, even if it's in the country, but there are a couple of issues. First of all, the US also wants to abolish labelling so that we won't actually know where it's come from. And two, that still leaves vulnerable people in poverty who will still have to buy it because, well, when you can't afford enough food, you get what you can and just hope it doesn't kill you. So now supermarkets are coming out saying that they won't even stock it. Even if the British government lowers food standards, even if they allow this stuff into the country, they will not stock it. They've been quite vocal on the issue as well, along with other such food items. So Waitrose kicked it off. I say Waitrose kicked it off. There were various retailers last year had sort of said, well, it's their position only to buy British meat anyway, and that will continue for chicken at any rate, and a few other things. But in terms of recently, Waitrose mentioned this. Now, I'm not really sure. I've heard of Waitrose. I don't know whether it's a thing more down south. I've never actually seen one. But my impression is that it seems to be a bit of a posh place anyway. So for like upper middle class people go there. A little bit like Marks and Spencer's, who've also said that they won't be stocking it. So, you know, a retailer like that, I mean, what we need to do is we're protecting the more vulnerable, the ones who just may have to buy it because they can't afford anything else. But Aldi, Co-op and Tesco have also said they'll never sell it, and they do cater for people on budgets. Sainsbury's too have also said they wouldn't, just to round things off, although that's not so much a supermarket for people on a budget either. I notice Asda hasn't as yet. It'd be absolutely hilarious if Asda agreed to do the same, because their parent company is the American Walmart, of course. Now, Tesco said that people reject the idea, and as such, they are going to respect what people want. So the next phase of the gloom is in fast food. So people say, okay, well, it's all very well supermarkets saying they won't stock it. But What happens when you go to a restaurant or a pub or just get a takeaway, chicken takeaway, you know, and true enough. But if this is all being driven by consumer demand, it opens up the possibility that anyone who sells chicken, or indeed any of the other offending foodstuffs, or potentially could be, whether cooked or uncooked, may have to declare where it came from. And if official data is revealing that we as a country are buying in chlorinated chicken, for example, then consumer groups are going to want to know where it's going. Because if it's coming into the country, it's going somewhere. And it could easily end up with the design of, say, a stamp to indicate that a particular business has demonstrated that they source their food carefully. It could work in a similar way to fair trade and red tractor and any number of other consumer labels, only like red tractor really on a national rather than an international scale. And we should remember that there is also some conservative backbench resistance to the lowering of standards as well. Not enough to have already nipped this in the bud, which is a little surprising because, you know, the proposal doesn't just mean lower food standards for these MPs' constituents, which many do not care about, as long as they can avoid it, but also an existential threat to British farmers who would be undercut by this practice. Now, some may say, well, no, because what the farmers will have to do is they will have to lower their standards. No, they won't be allowed to, because the government are refusing to authorise, at the moment anyway, the lowering of food production standards in the UK. So when they say they're not going to lower food standards, what they mean is they're not going to lower food production standards in the UK. But they are going to allow, and they've admitted this, they are going to allow lower standards of food to be imported into the country. This is literally a system designed to allow American farmers to undercut British farmers in the British market. It's absolutely the US government's proposal. Boris Johnson is not going along with it because it's his policy, but because he's been told to. But there are a number of Conservative MPs who represent farming constituents. And some of those MPs who went along with the agriculture bill have been attacked in their local areas. So we'll just have to see if they will rethink their continued support for it when the time comes at the next flashpoint. So despite the gloom over certainly what seemed like an inevitability of lowering food standards, because there is absolutely a lot of political pressure for Boris Johnson to get something agreed quite quickly, because he needs to be able to demonstrate something. At the moment, you know, the Brexit clock is ticking. People at some point are going to be asking, where's these trade deals then? We were supposed to have them on day one. It's day 100 odd. Where are they? But obviously, you know, by the end of the year, those calls are going to raise to a clamour. There are no other trade deals in the offing. They're not possible. So the US trade deal is the only one. And also Boris Johnson likes it because he can use it as a vehicle to deregulate the country. But if there's going to be resistance to it, then that can delay things. That could delay things. So, you know, if MPs won't prevent this aspect of the US deal with legislation, which would have been the preferable method, then it could well be that public opinion just drives consumer groups to put pressure on businesses to cut out the middleman and just not buy it themselves. A number of groups have already formed or organised to raise awareness, including Trump in Your Trolley, but also the more well-known consumer group Which, and of course the National Farmers Union have been on it as well. And if successful, and the government are forced to abandon this aspect of trade negotiations, which seems unlikely right now because there is a lot of political impetus for Boris Johnson to agree something with America, then the entire US trade deal, of course, will be off. And there won't be too many people who've actually read all of the US government's proposals who will be disappointed at that outcome. The US have made it clear that this issue is an absolute red line for them. And that's not just a negotiating position. The agriculture lobby in America is huge and powerful and knows that the UK is too weak to put up a fight in trade talks, and also knows that we need a trade deal quickly. They will simply not allow Trump to agree any deal that doesn't give American farmers a huge slice of the cake, even if he had a mind to, which of course he does not. A mind, that is. So resistance in the UK is more than just a token effort. It is actually working to an extent, because even delaying the talks for a while could do the trick. Waiting until either the removal of Trump, potentially, we hope, don't want to jinx anything, or Johnson, or preferably both. Maybe we could enter 2021 without either of them. That would be nice. But there it is. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.